probably when I was 4 years of age, I realized one thing. I suddenly realized one day that I don't know anything actually. Don't know anything means I don't know anything at all. If somebody gave me a glass of water, I would be staring at water for 3 to 4 hours because I wouldn't know what is water. Well, I know I can drink this water, I can use this water, I know how to use the water, but I don't know what is water. Even today, with all the scientific exploration, we still do not know even one atom in its entirety. We know how to use it, but we don't know what it is. So if I found a leaf, I would be staring at it for 5, 6 hours. I would sit up in the bed staring at the darkness for the entire night. So my father, being a doctor, started thinking I need psychiatric evaluation.
Yes.
Because this boy is simply staring at something. So in this condition, they also sent me to school. My mother said, pay attention to the teacher. I went and paid attention. The kind of attention they would have never received in their life.
Okay. What was that?
Absolute attention. I'm just looking at them. So initially I understood what they were trying to say. After some time, I realized that they were only making noises. I was making up meanings in my mind. Hour after hour, teacher after teacher comes and makes all kinds of sounds and go away. So I stopped making meanings. I just heard the sounds. See, right now I'm speaking. I'm only making sounds. You're making up the meanings, isn't it? Language is a conspiracy between two people.
Great.
I just stopped making meaning and just very attentively heard the sounds, and it became very amusing, and a big smile spread on my face. They were not amused.
Of course.
So my education went like this. I just look at the teacher, I know his past, present and future, but I don't hear a thing that he's saying. 8 years ago, this school where I studied over 40 years ago or 45 years ago, they invited me for their 125th anniversary.
Great.
I said, please see, why me? Because I was not just a not good student, I was not even a student. I didn't even know what happened there. They said, no, our school has produced union ministers, our school has produced cricketing stars, film stars, you're the only mystic, you must come.
I endorse with them.
So I went. So I looked around, standing up in a quadrangle to speak, same oppressive buildings. And when I looked at this classroom, I suddenly remembered. I was around 12 years of age. One afternoon, the teacher is trying to get a response from me. These are times when 3, 4 days at a stretch I won't even say a word, because when you don't know anything what to say. I'm still paying attention to the world. Whatever I see, it catches my attention to such a point, I can't speak. So he's asking a question and wanting to get a response. 35, 40 minutes when he doesn't get a response, he holds me by the shoulder, shakes me violently like this and says, you must either be the divine or the devil, I think you are the latter. I was not insulted by this, nor abused by this. Till that moment, my problem is, what is this, what is that, what is that, what is that? I have a question about everything in the universe. One thing was clear to me, this is me. Suddenly this man confused me about this also. I looked at myself, what am I? Am I devil or divine? What am I? Because I couldn't figure it out, I closed my eyes and sat. Initially from minutes to hours it went. One day I closed my eyes and sat, I thought it's 25, 30 minutes. When I opened my eyes, there was a lot of people around me. Somebody wants to know about his business, somebody wants to know when his daughters will get married. I said, where did you all come from? Because I just closed my eyes and sat and now they're all sitting here. They said I was sitting there for 13 days. I didn't even realize, I thought it's 25, 30 minutes. So, life became more and more inward. Though I involved myself with the outside world to whatever extent I could, and I was very involved, I would say, but still I had a completely different world going within myself, which exploded into a very huge experience when I was 25. Since then, I'm just trying to share my experience with people. I've created because I was practicing yoga from 12 years of age. I used yoga as a method to transmit this experience. In a way, there is nothing which is not yoga. So I used yoga as a methodology to share this experience. So, the experience means, at that moment when I just sat there, I was dripping ecstasy in every cell in my body. And I realized you don't have to do anything for this. Every human being is just capable of this. On that day I thought, I will make the entire world blissful. So it's 34 years and I've become like this. I've touched a few million people, but that's not my idea of the world. My idea of world is 7.3 billion people. So I'm saying I'm one big failure.
People say at the age of 25, you suddenly got some spiritual power or divine power at some hill space. What is that moment, how it happened, and what you felt at that time?
I was in business. I was very successful, far more successful than most people would imagine in a short span of time. Half a dozen things I was doing and very successful with whatever I was doing. One afternoon when I had nothing much to do, I went up Chamundi Hill. I was in Mysore. So in Mysore city it's like this, if you have something to do, you go up Chamundi Hill. If you have nothing to do, you go up Chamundi Hill. I had nothing to do, so I went up Chamundi Hill. This is a hill which is very familiar to me. So I went and sat, I parked my motorcycle and went up and sat on a rock. That was very familiar to me. My eyes were still open, I didn't even close my eyes. Till that moment, I always knew this is me, that is somebody else. I have no problem with that somebody, but this is me, that is somebody else. Suddenly I did not know which is me, which is not me. The very rock I was sitting upon, the air that I breathed, the atmosphere around me, everything had become me. I thought this lasted for about 5–10 minutes, but when I came back to my normal senses, it was about 4.5 hours. For the first time in my adult life, tears were flowing. Tears and me were impossible. As I said earlier, I was dripping ecstasy in every cell in my body. So I have a super skeptical mind. I'm somebody who has 1 billion questions about the entire universe. So when I ask my mind what's happening to me, my mind says, maybe you're going crazy. I just check with the closest of my friends, something is happening to me. They say, what did you drink, what did you take? So there was nobody to tell me what is happening to me. All I knew was, I have hit a gold mine and I don't want to lose it. All that happened was, to put it today technically, the word yoga means union. Union means, in some way you have psychologically drawn a boundary as to what is your individuality. Right now you're an individual person, and that's you, this is me, very distinctly there. But as you sit here, you're breathing. The boundary of your individuality is being broken by the breath. What the trees exhale, you're inhaling. What you exhale, they're inhaling. It's not just on the level of breath. When you eat food, what was yesterday earth, today becomes you, tomorrow becomes something else. Not just on that level, on every subatomic particle level, every particle in the body is constantly transacting. It is… individuality is an idea that we have created in our minds. Yoga means you erased that boundary and you experienced everything as yourself. This is what the union means, from individual to a cosmic level. So on that day it just burst forth and I knew you don't have to do anything to make this happen. But still you have to do so many things to make people understand that.
What actually inspired you to go for Isha Foundation and all that?
It is just that I started sharing with people whichever way I could, in my own ways. Then a huge number of people gathered, then a place became necessary. I was very averse to forming an organization. So I allowed the physical freedom I had at that time. I motorcycled across the country, I did whatever I wanted. But as the number of people gathered and their longing was so strong, then we had to set up a place.
So that is the point. And from there then you're going to places, you are expanding in America and all.
I am not expanding. People's longing is drawing us, that's all. I have no business plan to expand.
So you have some 1300 or 17 acre some yoga farm in America. What is that?
Yes, in United States, there's a large center coming up now, and there's enormous interest in the West because the religions that have been taught to people cannot withstand three intelligent questions. If you ask three questions, the entire teaching will collapse. And we have come to a time where human intellect is sparking like never before. More people can think for themselves than ever before in the history of humanity. People raise questions in their mind and everything, heavens will collapse. So naturally, seeking truth has become… It used to be very much an Indian thing forever. Right from ancient times, this is a land of seekers. But today this longing to know has become everywhere because it is no more… you cannot rule the world by dogma. You have to… whatever logical questions they have, you must be able to answer them, you must be able to find solutions for them. Simply saying this is the way it is not going to work anymore in the world.
I understand in Madhya Pradesh you are planning some 1000-acre yoga ashram and all that.
No.
I heard somewhere.
It has been printed in the newspapers, I don't know where they got it. We have not asked for any land, we have no such plans. It's not that we are averse to doing it, it is just that there is no such request, nor is there… a government has said they can give it, or nor have we asked for it. I don't know where they imagined this.
The Chief Minister happens to be your admirer, and that way he's gone to Coimbatore also with his wife and all for a 3-day break at your ashram.
That's for his health reasons he's come, so…
That way.
Both for his health and for his spiritual requirement he's come, that's got nothing to do with his politics.
Politics, no, of course, not politics. And in Rajasthan also recently visited, there's a lot of craze in the bureaucracy among the politicians, especially the lady Chief Minister. How this all happens?
No, the thing is this, in the last 20 years, I have particularly focused on leadership because if a nation or the world has to benefit from anything, it's important the leadership is of a different nature. What leadership means is, you have the privilege of touching so many people's lives. When you have such a privilege, I believe that your hands must be super clean. You must be of a certain kind. If your work is important, it is very important that you work upon yourself. So I have been striving across the world to touch the leadership. In India, for example, about 14 years ago, someone very important in the country came and they went through the inner engineering program and they asked this question, Sadhguru, this is fantastic, what about the country? I said, see, I have a list of 2,000 people in this country. You give them to me in the next 3 to 4 years. You will see the nation will change quietly without any noise happening about it.
What is that formula?
I'll come. So this is now 14 years, but we have touched about 42% of this. When I said leadership, I was not talking about prime ministers and chief ministers, because their term of leadership is very short, brief, 5 years, 10 years max, they're going. But there's another set of leadership which is solidly there for 25 to 30 years. The bureaucracy, the business leadership, the social leaders, if they change the way they look at life, if they change their own experience of who they are and what people are to them, things will change. So we have touched nearly 42 to 43% of these 2,000 people we listed. And as a part of this, we have been touching political leadership also. So we've done these programs for Andhra Pradesh, to some extent for Madhya Pradesh, now to Rajasthan. We want to see the political leadership, the administrative leadership and economic leadership to go through a certain change within themselves. Because in their hearts and minds, if they become little more inclusive, everything could be done better. People are doing whatever they know best, this is how I see life. Somebody may think he's good, he's bad, but they're doing… that's all they know, so that's what they're doing. Unless you raise their experience to a higher level Unless you raise their intelligence and perception of life to a higher level, they will not do anything higher. So in this effort, we are touching the state governments and as many leaders as possible.
You are talking of leadership, certain qualities. You met Vasundhara ji in Jaipur. How you rate her or evaluate her as a leader, not as a politician?
See, she is a passionate leader. She is passionate about everything she wants to do. It is when an individual becomes very passionate and fiery about what they want to do, they also have to turn back and look if everybody is coming along. It's very important. So, that is one aspect. If she takes care of it, she can do a lot of things for that state. I think she's doing wonderfully in terms of education and many things. But this is not a state with too many resources or educational capabilities or business, because it's a certain kind of terrain. So I think they're doing the right thing in focusing on tourism. But the kind of tourism that is coming to India is very low-spending tourism, so it doesn't really benefit the people. All backpacking kind of tourism, they come, see the desert and they go back. So they have to raise the tourism to a different level where the best of the people in the world will come, so that the infrastructure and other things need to happen. I think they're working towards that.
It is largely believed that you are the yoga guru of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
I have not taught him any yoga. He's been practicing yoga from some other source. I don't know where he learnt it, but I have never taught him yoga.
He's doing a lot to expand yoga, to popularize yoga in the country. How you…
See, as a Prime Minister of this nation, being concerned about the well-being of the nation is his business. Unfortunately, in India, we have not seen a Prime Minister in that context. We are thinking they are supposed to do only economic policy, this, that. No, it is the leader's business to think of people's well-being. So he is talking about keeping your street clean, keeping your toilet clean, keeping your hands clean. For the first time, there is a movement. There he has put some film stars to activate people to wash their hands with soap. I'm saying this is all the concerns of a leader, because if the nation has to go ahead, how people live has to move ahead. So in the same context, about keeping your inner dimensions well, yoga is an important part. When so many tragic things are happening, like our children are committing suicide, so many things are happening, I think it is the business of the Prime Minister to see how well-being can be brought. Especially when we have a knowledge in the country, we have a certain dimension of knowledge in the nation where we know how to keep our interiority, not just for this nation, for the entire world we can offer this. And it's appropriate that he put it up to United Nations. And look at the way the UN responded. Never before in the history of United Nations, 174 countries have voted for anything. Till now, for anything they have not come together. For yoga they came together. This must be a clear message to everybody. The world was waiting for India to take a step. It took so many years for us to come to that. I am glad that this Prime Minister took that step.
Do you think that he is slowly emerging as a global leader?
Obviously, there's no question. I must tell you this. I was in a Robert Kennedy 25th anniversary tour. There's a kind of a golf tournament and an event there. There were over 42 senior Democratic, congressmen and senators and others. Without exception, every one of them seeking me out, coming to me and telling me, Modi, they say Modi, so Modi is a global leader. There is no other leader like that in the world right now. Okay? I'm saying they're putting him above Obama, clearly. So, we also, it is not about joining a party or appreciating a man. My concern is over 400 million people in this country have still not eaten properly. If you see a strong leader, all of us should pitch on to him and see that the nation moves forward. This is our business. The problem in the country right now is, we seem to be in an election mode all the 5 years. Once the election is over, once we've elected somebody, whoever that is, once we've elected somebody, it's our business to support them for 5 years to do their work. We should not be thinking anything in between, if we are concerned about the people and the kind of suffering Indian people are going through.
How you define this Modi phenomena abroad?
He has earned it. Just the way he has expressed himself, the breadth of his thought, he has earned that from the people.
Even in the Muslim countries, he's visiting, getting a lot of response.
What's it got to do with Hindu or Muslim or anybody? It's got something to do with the man's capability. So people are appreciating. In the world, it doesn't matter. In the end, only competence matters. Nothing else matters.
Narendra Modi, when you met him the last?
About a year ago I met him. I wouldn't want to disturb him, he has things to do.
I agree. And
Unless I can contribute something, I wouldn't go to anybody. I don't go and ever meet any politician unless I think I can contribute something for them to work better. Otherwise, I don't go.
do you have any views on Baba Ramdev or Shri Shri? They are also expanding yoga or some art of living or what?
I'm too busy with what I'm doing. Where is the time for me to have views on other people?
I agree. But do you feel that Babas or Dharma Gurus should enter into business?
See, a success of a nation today is not determined by its military success or even political success. The success of a nation is determined by the success of its businesses. Within the parameters of the law, if anybody does good business, all of us must clap our hands. It doesn't matter who he is. If he's breaking the law, please take action. If he's doing things within the law, I think we must appreciate. Because Baba Ramdev was going around on a hired bicycle with a rented vessel with 50 kilograms of Chavanprash in 1998. In 2016, if he made his enterprise into a 5,000 crore enterprise, and that too not full-time, okay, he's only part-time looking at it. Full-time he's got something else to do, he's got his yoga to do. I think all of us should be proud of this. I don't know why we have trouble with this.
So what special you are doing on this 21st June International Yoga Day? Visiting some UN or somewhere?
See, the most important thing for me this year is, about 4 months ago it came to my notice that over 9,000 children below 18 years of age committed suicide in our country. Over 1,700 children below 14 years of age committed suicide. We must understand this much. When our children start committing suicide, we must clearly know we are doing something very fundamentally wrong with our lives.
Great.
I want everybody, the viewers who'll watch your channel, to look at it this way. Suppose our children committed suicide in our home, a 12-year-old child. Can you ever become free from that in your life? If a 12-year-old child committed suicide in our home, we know clearly we are doing something wrong, isn't it, with life? So it's happening in the nation and it's large scale. And one of the main culprits is the education system.
Exactly.
This education system, which was created to be in service of Her Majesty, we are still continuing the same thing and killing our children of all the things. A child is an exuberant life, a bundle of joy, a fresh life. If that life wants to take itself out, then we must understand we have not figured what is life. We have an education system where 98 is the passing mark today. When somebody is going on telling a child of 12, 13 years of age, if you don't get 98, you're no good, you're as good as dead, that's what he's doing. So, changing the fundamentals of our education system must happen, but that may take some time. So I thought, let's reach out. On that day 4 months ago, I said at least 10,000 schools we must touch. On that day, 10,000 looked like a big number. But I traveled through these 8, 9 states, met all the chief ministers and education ministers. They responded with enormous enthusiasm and they were deeply concerned about this issue. And today we are touching over 30,000 schools. Approximately somewhere close to 2 crore children between the age groups of 10 and 16 we are touching. The unique thing about what we are doing is, we trained 45,600 teachers of ours who are in turn training the teachers. So this yoga, which is a 20-minute protocol of Upa Yoga. Why Upa Yoga is, when you teach yoga, however innocuous it may look on the surface, that is, I am here as a living proof. When I learnt yoga at the age of 12, I was not looking for anything spiritual in my life. I thought it will give me physical prowess, and that's why I went for it. But it exploded in a different form after some time, after 12–13 years. So however innocuous a yogic practice may be, there is a spiritual dimension to it. So you cannot transmit yoga large scale to an unconscious population. When I say unconscious, when the child doesn't know this is what I'm getting into, it's not right to transmit in such large levels. So that's why we are teaching what is called as Upa Yoga, which means sub-yoga or pre-yoga. Now I know in normal language, almost all the languages uses the word Upa Yoga as something useful. This will bring a tremendous change in your body and in your psychological structure, but it does not have spiritual dimension attached to it. So this Upa Yoga protocol, which is 20 minutes, now we are training the teachers so that they can impart. This is becoming part of the 5-day protocol, 5-day, 20 minutes per day protocol in all these schools. In many areas, we are also trying to involve the parents so that it continues at home. Let us see. I hope it gives them some relief.
So Vidya initiative will take care of all the school reforms, education reforms?
No, this is just what to say, right now they're bleeding, it's a band-aid. But this will stand with them in their life if they do the practice regularly, if it becomes a part of this. My fundamental goal is this: these are tools for self-transformation. Tools for transformation should not be in the hands of a guru or an organization or some kind of authority. It must be in the hands of every individual in this world. Today, everybody has brushed their teeth here because they have a brush of their own. If there was one Delhi government brush where you had to go and brush, probably they would go once in a year and brush. Because everybody has a tool to clean up their their oral cleanliness, they're doing it. Similarly, if they had tools to mental and physiological cleanliness, they would do it. The problem is, these tools have not been available without frills. Now without frills, just as a technology, why I'm insisting it's a technology is, you don't have to believe in it. You don't have to like me for this. You just have to learn to use it. It's like your Samsung phone. You don't have to like the Samsung family in Korea. You don't have to believe in them. You just learn to use it, it works for you. This is how we are presenting yoga. This is why it's called inner engineering. You just learn to use it, it works for you. Doesn't matter what is your caste, what is your creed, what is your gender, it doesn't matter. You just learn to use it.
So what is Isha Foundation doing for rural India?
70% of our activity is in rural India, but largely in southern India. We have not come to northern India in the rural capacity because of language. I still can't talk to you in Hindi. I can only say Hindi bahut kamzor hai. That much I've learned.
Mahashivratri, I think you plan some big annual celebrations with people.
See, the reason why Shivaratri happens, Mahashivratri happens the way it happens is, one aspect of it is, this is an acknowledgement to the Adiyogi who represents that day. Why is it important to acknowledge him? He is 15,000 years ago, he is the first one to bring this idea into human mind that if you strive, if you're willing to strive, you can transcend all limitations which are considered natural limitations upon the human being. For the first time, he brought you this idea, if you're willing, you can evolve beyond your present state of existence. This is very, very important. Otherwise, people will become fatalistic. So to bring that idea back to people in a live way, that is why that aspect. Another thing is, in terms of planetary position, because planet is revolving at a certain angle, not straight like this, because of this, on that particular day, the way the gravity or the upward pull of the moon and the sun works on that day is that there is a natural upsurge of energy in the human body. when that upsurge happens, it's very important you keep your spine erect. This is why they told you not to lie down on that night. So how to keep people up the entire night? So we have fantastic music, dance, meditation, everything going from evening 6 to morning 6, 12 hours, non-stop celebration, so that everybody sits up, alive, alert, allowing this upsurge to happen. Nature is asking you to be spiritual on that day, just make use of it.
I think you are a wonderful combine of spiritualism and materialism when you travel into all helicopters and planes and hotels and bikes and all that, people say. So how you
bullock
manage?
cart, I'll become a spiritual person. I also ride bullock carts, I love bullock carts.
Really?
Yes, I'm slowly abolishing all vehicles inside the ashram and bringing back bullock carts for people to move around, because we want animals, we want quietness and no engines roaring. So I love bullock carts also. But do you want me to come from Coimbatore to Delhi in a bullock cart? Then you will say I'm a fool. If I fly, then you say, oh, he's flying. What to do? Somebody comes and asks me, because I always, wherever possible, most of the time anywhere in the world, I drive myself. Because I believe I'm a better driver than most people.
Oh.
Yes, I am. Everywhere I drive myself because I like to keep my life in my hands and I drive better than most people. So somebody says, you drive your own car, what kind of a spiritual person are you? This is because people have come to a conclusion that spirituality is some kind of a disability.
Wow. Wow.
Spirituality is not a disability, it's the biggest empowerment that a human being can have. And why are you going in the car? In the ancient times, yogis used to walk. Then I said, you idiot, in ancient times everybody was walking, not just the yogi.
People are curious to know, actually in the country, you are a sant, sannyasi or grahast?
I'm grahast.
How you see some sort of a balancing or this combination, or normally sannyasis are away from grahasti or they ignore grahasti or don't take proper care of grahast part of their life. How you manage these two parts?
I manage everything well.
You manage everything
Because
well.
I know how to manage my mind perfectly well. Once you know how to manage your mind and yourself well, you will manage everything well.
How you define spirituality, spiritualism in a way?
If your experience of life transcends the limitations of your physicality, that means you're spiritual. It's the most maligned and corrupted word on the planet right now. Spirituality does not mean looking up or looking down, it's about turning inward.
What is the truth? Such kya hai, truth?
If truth is spoken, then it is no more truth.
Wow. What is love? Pyar, prem, love. How you define love in this life, human life?
If you… see, it's like this. A human being is aspiring for pleasantness of life. If your body becomes pleasant, we call this health. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it pleasure. If your mind becomes pleasant, we call it peace. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we call this love. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it compassion. If your very life energies become pleasant, we call this blissfulness. If it becomes very pleasant, then we call it ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call it success.
How you visualize marriage, the institution of marriage, the act of marriage?
See, usually we call a prison or a mental asylum as an institution. Marriage is not an institution.
Wow.
It is something beautiful when it happens between two people, they're married. Otherwise, they're in an institution, it's terrible.
How you define death, the end of life?
You want to know what is death? Some things you know best only by experience.
Do you feel there is some Bhagwan, इंसान मरने के बाद कहाँ जाता है, ऊपर जाता है, कहाँ?
ऊपर वाला.
Some research or some…
About Upar wala, first let's understand what's Upar. then Vala will come, okay? Is this planet round or flat for you?
Really don't know.
You don't know?
I hear.
Is planet round or flat?
Yes,
It's
like this
round.
only.
And it's spinning on top of it. And you are not sitting in North Pole, you are sitting in Delhi at a certain latitude. So when it is spinning and you're on a round planet, if you look up, you're invariably looking up in the wrong direction, isn't it? So, in Delhi when you look up, is it Upperwala? Or when you look up in Australia, is it Upperwala, I'm asking. So you don't even know what is Upper. Nowhere in this cosmos is it marked that this side up. You do not know what is up and down. You cannot know what is up and down. You are incapable of knowing what is up and down. Human beings are incapable of knowing what is up, what is down. In only relative practical terms, we'll say that is up, this is down. But you don't really know what is up and down. So, Vala, where does it come?
How you visualize that Vala is a prevailing concept, or people think about
See,
Upar Vala.
when you say it's a concept, you're admitting you made it up, right? Why is it that we are so eager to make up things? Why don't we come to this much sincerity in our lives? What I know, I know. What I do not know, I do not know. If you see I do not know, the longing to know, the seeking to know is a natural consequence in human intelligence. Once you have a seeking and a longing to know, knowing is just a question of time. But instead of seeing that I do not know, people have destroyed I do not know with their belief systems. Somebody believes this is God, somebody believes that is God. No. If you understand you do not know, the seeking will come. Then you will find what it is. One thing is clear, you and me did not create this existence, right? Because you're human, you're thinking a big human being must be sitting up there. Can I tell you a joke?
Yes, please.
Don't become so serious.
Please. Please.
This happened in New York City. A boy, 8-year-old boy came home and he had a very progressive mother. When she's so progressive, she's bound to be single. So, he came home and asked, Mama, is God man or a woman? She thought about all the political correctness of it, and the election is coming, it's going to be decided now, is it a man or a woman? She thought about everything, and then being a very progressive woman, she said both. Then he went into deep thought. After some time he came back and asked, Mama, is God black or white? She again went into all the racial consequences of this question, and then she said both. He again went into deep thought. Then he came back and he asked, Mama, is God straight or gay? He asked. Again she thought about all the consequences, and then she said both. The boy jumped in joy, I got it, it's Michael Jackson.
Okay. Do you have some faith or believe these stars, palmist, haath ki rekha, or it's only effort which make you success or failure?
See, everything can have an influence on you. If you allow it, this glass vase sitting here can have an influence on you because it has its own reverberations. So definitely moon and other planets can have an influence on you. Do you know that on the days of Paurnami or full moon day and new moon days, people who are mentally unstable tend to become more unstable on those days? They do. All mental institutions take a lot of care on those days because people become much more enhanced in that. But do you and me become little crazy on those days? Don't. Why? Because you're a little more balanced. So similarly, the fundamental question is just this: what you're referring to as planets and stars are, inanimate things. This rock and soil. Should inanimate things determine the nature and destiny of human consciousness, or human consciousness should determine the nature of inanimate things. We should determine the destiny of what happens to physical things, not physical things determining what happens to us. It all depends where you are. If all you know is just your body, you're just one more piece of soil. After all, this is soil that we picked up. If you are just that, then some other rock will influence you, some other form will influence you. If you have become conscious of the nature of who you are, you determine where you go. The entire process of the spiritual process means you have taken your destiny into your hands. Why we said spiritual process means going towards mukti or absolute freedom means you became free from all these influences and you are going towards your freedom and you have decided to go there, not because of any stars or other things. And in this country, astrologers, if you tell them you're on a spiritual path, they refuse to predict your future because they know you have taken your future into your hands. It is my wish and my blessing that this nation should take its destiny into its hands.
How you visualize this world after 50 years?
How we make it? I want to make it a wonderful place, because this is a fundamental responsibility we have as a generation of people is, we must understand, we are just a pop-up on the planet. We are here for a brief amount of time. In the life of this planet, we are just 2 seconds, you and me. The world was given to us in a certain way. It's our business to leave it little better. I hope we leave it better than the way we got it.